not think of something else to do. So I decided we're going to do another video. It'll be the second one this week. It'll be awesome. And last time I told you the next video will be the bookshelf tour. So we're going to move from my studio into the front room where the bookshelves are and explore what's on my shelves. Let's go. Alright, we're at the bookshelves. I have these two here. There's one more off screen right next to this one, and then there's one across the room. I have short bookshelves because that's what I was able to get that was both inexpensive and sturdy. And so we're going to start with this one. This shelf I got at DI. It was $8, I think, if I remember right. First things on it, we have Dragon Watch. So the first 3 books of that. 4th one is coming out soon. Yeah. Then, of course, next to Dragon Watch, Fablehaven, however you want to say it. I always said Fablehaven, but enough people have argued with me over it that I decided to switch over to Fablehaven to try and avoid conflict. Next to that, I also have Beyonders. So all of this part is Brandon Mull books. And yeah, then I have Jennifer Nielsen's books. I have The False Prince, Runaway King, Shadow Throne, Trader's Game. I did finish Trader's Game, as you saw in my last video when I made a little comment at the end. Next to that one, I have a book on mermaids, and this is actually a book about real myths and legends and lore and sightings and all sorts of things throughout history and throughout all different parts of the world. I think it's awesome. It's part of a series. I don't have the rest of them. I know there's like 7 or 8 books, I think, of all different mythological creatures and how the lore came to be about them. I have the mermaids one because the book I'm writing has mermaids in it, and I made up my own lore about them, so I wanted to see what other lore existed that maybe I could incorporate. So it's a really cool book. Okay. The next thing, I have a bunch of very random books all the way from here to the end. So I've got A Tale Dark and Grim, I've got The Tale of Despero, Little White Horse, Demigods and Magicians, Hotel Valhalla, Guide to Norse Worlds, The We Free Men, the Adeline and the Yellow Cat, The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland, and The Ship of Her Own Making. I've got The True Blue Scouts of Sugarman Swamp. I actually really enjoyed this one. I've got a book on Betsy Ross. I've got a book called Starglass. It has a sequel, but I decided not to buy the sequel. I got Starglass at a garage sale, and I mean, it was entertaining, but it wasn't my thing per se. I've got the one in Only Ivan, which is a really good story. I've got The Peculiars, anyways, Hammer of Thor, and then Falling Up. I think I've had this book the longest out of all my books. It is literally falling apart at the binding. I have to be really careful when I open it because it's actually like coming apart, but I've loved this book ever since I was a kid. Shel Silverstein is a master of being hilarious. So that's a top shelf. Up here, I've got Fairyopolis, Vampirology, Dragonology, and Mythology. And the Fairyopolis book I've had since I was a little kid, but the rest I ended up getting later. I really just love the formatting of these books and how there's pop-up parts and things that open, and there's so much to explore. This one's written like a field journal, which I think is really cool because it's one continuous story of the person who's like studying the fairies. So that's cool. And then this is just a photo book called The Simple Truth About Love. It was a present from a preschooler's parent that I worked at. I worked at that preschool in 2012, and she gave me a gift basket on my last day, and that book was in it, and it's just super cute. It's got some sea lions on the front. It's also got beavers on the back. Next shelf. First book, China Road. Originally it was for a class that I read it, but I really enjoyed the story. It's a biography of a man who took the longest route in China. It's really cool. If you get a chance, read it. The next book after that is Starry River of the Sky by Gracelyn, and what this book is, it takes Chinese mythological stories and stuff, and it basically blends them into one master story, which I think it's really cool. It has a sequel. I don't have the sequel, but yeah. And the next 4 books are my new favorite books that I've read so far, and they're the Spoken Mage series, and this is by Melanie Cellier. So I've got Voice of Power, Voice of Command, Voice of Dominion, Voice of Life. That's the whole and it's so good. I absolutely recommend reading them. Yeah, I don't want to spoil them. Just you need to read these books if you have not read them. Right next to that, I have Kim Chance's Keeper and Seeker. And I'm sure if you're on AuthorTube when you're finding this video, you've probably already seen a ton of her videos. These were also really great. Next to that is the Mistborn box trilogy that you saw in my last video. Warbreaker by Brendan Sanderson. And then I have the Land of Elyon series, which is a middle grade series. I bought these when I was middle grade. But it's about a girl named Alexa who lives in a walled-in, not even cities, it's 4 cities, all around them. Even the roads are walled in. But she finds a way to go outside, and she also finds a way to talk to animals. And anyways, she goes on this grand adventure. It's really cool. Next to that, I have Peter Pan, Jungle Book, Lord of the Rings, Bridge to Terabithia. I don't think I need to introduce any of those. They already have a worldwide reputation of being awesome. The next books I have are Jennifer Worth's Call the Midwife series, and so this includes Call the Midwife, Shadows of the Workhouse, Farewell to the East End, and In the Midst of Life. Very, very good series. This is also a real and true biography. I was in tears reading these, but they're so good. I also highly recommend them if you're looking for them. That's the first book, at least this version of the cover. There's a few different versions of the covers. The next book is also a true story, Chinese Cinderella. It is about a girl who's basically abused by her family and has this really awful life, but it's called Cinderella for a reason because something happens at the end, and it's really awesome, and it's actually not about true love there. So if you like, why does a man go to save her? That's not what happens. But yeah, it's also really good. It's actually a very quick read. But yeah, I highly recommend this one as well. Next to that one, I have a book of Edgar Allan Poe poems. So I mean, the book is called The Raven, but The Raven's just one of the many poems in here. And that one's really fun. And I've got the first 3 out of the 8 Artemis Fowl books. I've got that cover version is box set. I think these are technically my husband's. I bought them for him as a birthday present when we were dating. Yeah, that's it, because he hadn't read them. Never ended up getting the rest for him, though. Oops, I was going to. I've got Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. Also awesome. About a boy named Nobody. Lives in a graveyard. Raised by ghosts. It's awesome. And I've got The Last Waltz, which I talked about in the last video. Then the Complete Arrows trilogy, which I also talked about. Then I have A Monster Calls. And A Monster Calls is about a boy and his mom has cancer. And then this monster shows up in his life. But then the real question at the end is kind of, is the monster, or is cancer the monster? Anyways, it's very intriguing. It's got a lot of pictures in the margins and stuff. But yeah, and then it has whole spreads that are just pictures. It's very cool, very well put together, visually and literaturely. Okay, and then the very last book on this second shelf is El Defo, and El Defo is also a very good book. It's a graphic novel. It's a true story, but the graphic novel version of it, they're kind of animal people, kind of Arthur-style animal people. In fact, yeah, they're all rabbits. Anyways, so this is about Cece Bell. Here's the real picture of her. And she is deaf, and it's about her elementary school years, starting with preschool all the way through, does it go to 5th or 6th grade? It either goes to 5th or 6th grade. Anyways, it's really good. I actually read it in one sitting, even though it's pretty thick because it is a graphic novel. It's very easy to go through very quickly. Yeah. So if you haven't read this, read that as well, because it's kind of cool to know and understand different disabilities and what it's like to grow up with that. And as a teacher, that's something that I want to be aware of, is what challenges my students might face. Alright, let's look at this last shelf here. So I'm going to start from this side this time. So I've got Harry Potter books all the way up to here. I've got hardcover of Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, and Deathly Hallows. So those are what I've found hardbacks of so far. And I mean, like, my family growing up, we always got multiples of each books, but those still stay at my parents' house. So my own collection, I've just found at like thrift store and other random sales and stuff. Then I have Harry Potter, 2 Chinese versions. One of the first book, one of the last book. I think I was able to get 2 chapters into this with a dictionary, and then I put it down for like a week, and then that week turned into a couple years. Oops. But it's kind of interesting to see how different things are translated. Now this looks so thin. People tell me, how can that be the whole first book? Well, there's a lot more words on each page in the Chinese version than there is in the English version. For example, here's a paperback of the English version, and when you consider that every word in English takes many characters and every word in Chinese takes 1 or 2 characters, the difference is pretty vast. Okay, then obviously, as I already showed you, have paperbacks of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of Harry Potter. And then right next to that, I've got Secrets of the Midwives, which I talked about in the last video. And I've got a paperback of Hunger Games. And then I've got the Inheritance series right here. And then a Complete Chronicles of Narnia. So this is all 7 books in one. So it starts with Magician's Nephew, ends with The Last Battle. I grew up on Narnia. I think I've read it through 11 or 12 or more times, if I include all the times that it was read to me as a kid as well, because I do count that. But yeah, and then next to that, I've got some notebooks and journals that I use just for writing notes in. I think all of them have stuff about my book. This one in particular is a journal of a character in my series. And I started writing it just so I could understand and get more into that character's head. And you know what's in here? Flyer for Writer's Workshop, which I can't go to because coronavirus. Sitting on top here, I've got my sewing machine manual, I've got an alumni magazine the college sent me, and then I've got a bunch of signed Fablehaven posters and stickers and stuff, and a Willy Wonka thing that we went to at a local high school. Didn't know I had that right there. That is the first shelf. There will be a part 2 of this with the next shelf in it. Thanks for watching. Bye.